because it's a proper studio now. Hello everyone, welcome to number 13 in our series of classes on the essential elements of Bhakti, Vaishnavism. And this one is about the avatars. Hare Krishna, Namaste and welcome. So avatar is a word that no one used to know the meaning of back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Maybe it was just coming in the 90s. But we learned from gaming, I think it was, where the game player had an avatar on screen. This avatar was a digital construction that allowed the person to game, play, and it was like you, it had your qualities, it had your name. You could use it. So people now have become very understanding of what the word avatar is. Before games reached into the Sanskrit language to rediscover it, avatar was not known. The reason why avatar is important, of course, is because we are important, humans are important, and part of taking to any spiritual message or practice depends on someone who comes down, a prophet, a son of God, a wise man, a wise woman, a yogi, or indeed an incarnation of the Lord. So we'll go on. What's the difference between an avatar and an incarnation? Essentially nothing. But in terms of the language that we use, we can be a bit more specific if we say avatar. But I'll come to that in a minute. So the concept of avatar is found in the earliest of Vedic texts. And that is important because some people who think they know, say, that the idea of avatar came at a later date in the development of what we may call Vedic thought. In other words, that many people, especially those informed by anthropologists, conceive that there was an early Vedic period, a middle Vedic period, a late Vedic period. And certain ideas are only found in the middle, certain ideas are only found in the late, like that. We, however, tend to be a little bit more faithful to the tradition, which holds that all of these concepts have been there, but they arise and fall like leaves and flowers on a tree. You have a tree, it's there for the winter, spring, summer, and autumn, but it manifests in different ways, but the tree is one and the tree is there. So the culture of the Veda, the culture of knowledge, is always existing and available for humans. And evidence for the concept of avatar, the idea that God comes down to this world, is found in the Purusha Sukta. The Purusha Sukta is found in at least 4 different places in the Vedic scriptures. It's a very common mantra. It's, 18, 20 verses long. It's chanted by Brahmins. Many people know it. They can recite it by heart. And the idea is that it gives the essence of the creation that we were talking about last week. Last week we talked about creation, didn't we? We talked about the Purushas, the Vishnus, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Mahavishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva. We talked about everyone last week. So in the Rig Veda 1090 we find this. Ajayamano Bahuda Vijayate. That's just one excerpt, but it means although unborn, although unborn, he is born many times. So here, right at the Purusha Sukta, which is found, at least all authorities agree that it is found in the original Rig Veda. So Rig Veda goes back many tens of thousands of years, at least, even by the materialists' calculation, even by the mundane historians' calculation. We find the Rig Veda, one of the original 4 Vedas, and it contains all the hymns to God and gods. But this Purusha Sukta, it is a sukta, or a collection of hymns addressed to Purusha, which we said was the Supreme Person, didn't we, last time? So in 1090 it says that the Supreme, the Purusha, that's the subject of the hymn. It says so in the title. So the Purusha is one, but is born many times. So there you have it. Avatar is not a modern or a medieval Indian thought concept. And the reason we must do this is because that gives a very complete understanding of the ideas. We're trying to give it a complete understanding of the ideas of Bhakti. So Avatar is one of the key concepts. But you may not have heard the argument that Avatar fits into another epoch of Vedic thought, but you will soon enough. So let me give you substantiation for the original idea that Avatar is there. Something called the Shatapatha Brahmana, which is another text, mentions the incarnation of Vishnu as a fish, Matsya, and the Taittiriya Aranyaka, also ancient text, mentions the avatar of Vishnu as a tortoise or Kurma. The boar incarnation of Varaha is described in the Taittiriya Brahmana. And the Rig Veda also mentions the dwarf Vamana, otherwise known as Trivikrama, or 3 steps. So the term avatar literally means coming down. It's from the Sanskrit avataran, which means to come from a higher place to a lower place. So it's not coming across, it's not manifesting in the mind of men's imagination. It's not coming from one country to another, but avataran means one who comes down. The idea from, not physically down from the mountain, but spiritually down from one plane of existence to the mundane plane. It also means that the Supreme Being comes in different forms. And some of those forms are predictable. And you would not be surprised to see God come in human form. Why not? Because we have a tendency to think that God is human in his form anyway. So we're not surprised. And sometimes it's good that we're not surprised, because the other forms that God takes, that Lord Vishnu takes, are somewhat surprising. Now, if we ask, why does he come in different forms? Really everything that he does, including coming in different forms periodically, is due to his mercy. As Krishna, he says in the Bhagavad Gita, yada hi dharmasya. Yada means whenever and wherever there is a decline in dharma. Dharma samstapanataya, I reassert dharma, I re-establish dharma by removing the obstacles to dharma and promoting those who espouse dharma. So it's a rebalancing of the world. So even the world, perfectly designed by God, comes in need of balance. So he arrives as an avatar to do that. Why doesn't he do it now, in Kali Yuga? Well, that's a good question. But you can't have an avatar except when Krishna deigns to appear he chooses when to appear and where to appear. Now, we may say that Krishna or Vishnu is avapta samastakama, or all his desires are already fulfilled. So what desire can God have that's not already been fulfilled in the higher spiritual plane? You may say that his descent into the world is for the protection of the world, but he is Satya Sankalpa, or one whose will is paramount. In other words, God, or Isha, or Purusha, is one who can do anything he likes. Anything he wishes can be accomplished with no impediment, no obstacle, no deterioration. Just thought makes it happen instantly. And therefore you may argue that, well, if Krishna wants to, he can achieve the rebalance of Dharma just by thinking about it. He doesn't have to come as an avatar. Nevertheless, his appearance in this world accomplishes a number of objects, a multitude of objects. Prabhupada was once in a preaching event, and he came to the end of his talk and he asked for questions, and a man said, well, I don't know what he said. He gave some impersonal interpretation. And Prabhupada stressed, no, God is a person. And he comes, and when he comes as an avatar, he comes to perform many tasks at the same time. And then he described how when Krishna was dancing on the many-headed snake Kaliya, Krishna was dancing, and his big toe was describing the arc of different planets, the orbit of different planets. So many things are achieved. Someone is brought down, someone is lifted up, someone is given great fortune, someone is made poor, all by one act of Krishna. So the avatar forms are real. They're not the imagination of as Prabhupada said, in Edinburgh. He was in Edinburgh one time. Somebody asked him a slightly challenging question, which is good. You must ask challenging questions in order to establish the bona fides of a speaker. But Prabhupada looked at the young man who'd asked the question. He said, do you think I would tell you fairy stories? So these stories of the avatars are not mythology, or sometimes, as they say in India, mythology. It is mythology. They've learned this word from the Christians, the Christian teachers who were there for 250 years in India, telling them that our story is true. The story of Jesus is true. Jesus came from God and he was an incarnation. But your stories of your incarnations are not true. They're mythology. Well, what to do? So they're non-material. So they're real, they're non-material, they're made of spiritual substance, no flesh, blood, bones, muscles. The English translation of avatar is usually given as incarnation, but incarnation is the Latin derivation from the words in, which means in, and karna, which means blood. So into the blood. So the Spirit of God comes into the blood. So for the Latin, Western, mostly Christian understanding, the idea is that the incarnation, which for Christian purposes is only one, God incarnates as Jesus Christ, and he does so in the flesh. Jesus Christ is fully fleshy, fully human, fully material, and yet fully spiritual. How to understand that? Well, the balance of understanding is that it's a paradox. But with our own Vaishnava conception, we do not believe in the bloody, fleshy bag that the incarnation comes in. So the word is avatar. Krishna is fully perfect. When he changes shape to come as an avatar, he's still fully perfect. Even though he may look like a boar, a tortoise, a fish, half man, half lion. Krishna comes in these forms ultimately for his pleasure. Why does he come in these different forms? Because it helps to accomplish what he's trying to do. And if you read the stories, you'll know that the fish was required to save the Vedas, and the boar was required to lift the earth, and half man, half lion was to show Hiranyakashipu that no matter how much he could try to trick the Lord, it was impossible. So the form accomplishes part of the story. So, who is an incarnation? Well, I must tell you tonight that I am an incarnation. I'm an incarnation. But I must also tell you that you are an incarnation. You are an incarnation. We are all incarnations. Why? We are reincarnations. Because the soul, the spirit soul, the eternal spirit soul, who is 1/10,000th the size of a tip of a hair, has come into the flesh, incarna, has reincarnated. So if reincarnation exists, then incarnation exists. So we are all reincarnations, therefore we are all incarnations. So you can tell your friends, tomorrow I am an incarnation. So, something else, the avatar does not appear or disappear according to karma. I appear according to karma. You appear according to karma. But God does not appear. God has no karma. He has no karma from the past. No karma is he creating now. And there will be no karmic reactions for him in the future. So the motivation is his own sweet will, his desire to re-establish Dharma, to give mercy to the jivas, to display his pastimes, his eternal pastimes, and attract the jiva back to the spiritual plane. But there's nothing forcing him. If you take birth as a pig, then you're the incarnation of a pig. But you'll have to have a pig's life and end up a very sorry pig at the end of a few short years. If Krishna comes as a pig or a boar or a turtle or a man-lion or a dwarf, he doesn't suffer during those avatars. He's not forced to come in that way, and he leaves by his own designs. So, Krishna says expressly that he comes to help the righteous, the sadhus. Sadhu comes from the word sad, good. Good is related to the word for eternity or truth. That which is good, if you follow it, you become a sadhu. In ancient India, if you wanted to applaud someone, you didn't clap your hands, but you said sadhu, sadhu, good, 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 good. Krishna also says he vanquishes evil in the form of those who hold evil in their hearts, the diskritinas. He vanquishes them. And along with these two purposes, down, up and down, he establishes his divine form and he reveals his instructions, thus giving inspiration and purpose to those who seek him. So in the very beginning, Krishna incarnates as we talked last week, he expands as Balaram, Balaram expands as the Chaturvyuha, Chaturvyuha expands as the Vishnus, the three Vishnus, Mahavishnu, from whom the universe has come, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, who expands into every universe, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who is present within the heart and also within each universe. It is said in the Sattva Tantra that those who know these three Vishnus are saved. So, you'll know that we venture into a sort of Sankhya. Sankhya means to count. We're counting things. We're counting the number of Vishnus. We're counting the number of counting categories. So with this lesson, we're talking about six types of avatars. Firstly, get your notebooks out. You may not remember this. Purusha avatars. These are the incarnations of Vishnu that we've just mentioned. 3. Maha, Garbha, and Shira. Maha, Garbha, and Shira. 3 Vishnus. That's the first category of avatar. Then the next is, and I'm just casting my eye sideways to make sure that I give you it in the order in which it is revealed in the text. Second is Leela avatars. Leela means the play or sport, pastime, Prabhupada translated Leela as. That which you do not have to do, but which you do just for enjoyment. So Krishna comes for his enjoyment. When he comes as Purusha avatar, that's work. He's creating the universes, he's creating Brahma, he's monitoring all our activities in the material world, just like Prabhupada said, when the fairground comes to town, extra policemen are drafted in to police the crowds. People get excited at fairgrounds. Perhaps some bullying goes on, perhaps some pickpocketing goes on, so extra police are drafted in. Similarly, when the material world is created, Vishnu comes in the form of the Paramatma to monitor activities. So monitoring, creating, expanding, this is work. One time Prabhupada said that Krishna, he has 2 hands, but when he goes to do his work, he has 4. He puts on a suit. So Leela avatars. In the Brahma Samhita we find this verse, Ramadi Murti Shukalani Meina Tishtan Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu, that the Leela avatars of Krishna are numberless. Leela avatars of Govinda are numberless, but beginning with Rama, there are many, sometimes it is counted 10 incarnations, or Darsha avatar. These are very popular. How does it go? Matsya Kurma Baraha Narasimha Devan Vamana Parashuram Rama Balaram Kalki, etc. like that. 10 incarnations. Matsya Kurma Baraha Narasimha Devan Vamana Parashuram Rama. Anyway, so some of these you know, Matsya, who saved the Vedas, Kurma, who appeared so that the Mandara mountain could, according to the Leela, the Mandara mountain on his back could scratch his back. The Lord had an itch, so he incarnated as the tortoise to scratch the itch. The mountain revolved, the milk ocean was churned, and different things were manifested, including Lord Shiva's Hala poison, Airavata, and different, the Dhanvantari and his Ayurvedic medicine, Lakshmi Devi. All of these came from the ocean of milk which is churned. If you understand ancient farming and how they churn the milk to make it into butter, then you'll know the ocean of milk is churned. It will resonate with you. So Rama, the greenish incarnation who came to model the ideal kingship, Nrsimhadev, who came to cheat his the arch enemy of his great devotee Prahlad. Vamana, who took 3 steps across the universe, up and down. And this 3rd step placed it on King Bali's head. And Varaha, who rescued the Bhuloka and dealt with Hiranyaksha, the brother of Hiranyakashipu. That's the 2nd category. 3rd category is the Guna avatars. The gunas we talked about last week. Gunas are the modes of nature, the way nature works. Everything is influenced by the modes and at the same time made of the modes. It's the intrinsic component of nature. So controlling that is Vishnu, Brahma and Shiva. But do not think, as many people do, particularly in India, that Vishnu, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, they say Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, or Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, because the Guna avatars, for goodness, passion and ignorance, are 3. Therefore, there are 3 equal deities. This was something that came along with Christian preachers again in India, that, we have a trinity. You also have a trinity, see? Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, like we have. So Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. This was an attempt by the Christian preachers to make some comparisons, and from the comparisons bring the Hindus into Christianity. So number 4, the Manvantara avatars. These are the Manus. Manu is like not a god, but a godly, but a king of the universe, progenitors of humanity. Last week we told you about the day of Brahma, the lifetime of Brahma, the 311 trillion years. So these Manus, there are 14 of them in each day of Brahma. So just one 12-hour day of Brahma, 14 of these kings of the universe. Each one lives for a duration of 71 multiplied by 4,320,000 years. So Manvantara avatars. You could set your clock by them. You can set your cosmic clock by them. Number 5, Yuga avatars. We talked about this last week, the concept of Yuga or age, that each age is progressively shorter. Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali Yuga. They revolve like spring, summer, autumn, winter in the lifetime of the universe, always revolving. But for each yuga there's a process of religion. Satya Yuga is meditation. Treta Yuga is fire sacrifices. Dwapara Yuga is deity worship. Kali Yuga is congregational chanting of the names of Vishnu. They're different colors, white, red, blue and black. But sometimes, as in this Kali Yuga, the incarnation for Kali Yuga is yellow. They all teach the religion, which is, or spiritual process, which is most beneficial for that age. It doesn't mean that the other processes are discontinued. So fire yajnas are still observed, deity worship is still observed, meditation is still observed, but one of those becomes prominent. Number 6, Shakti Avesh avatars, incarnations which are empowered, jivas. So there's a jiva, and the jiva is Avesh, or immersed, in Shakti. Shakti means the power, one particular power of God. If you can imagine that being like a rainfall. So the jiva is completely deluged by this rainfall, and it becomes immersed in the water of Shakti. two forms of this divine absorption. One is the Bhagavadavesh, such as Kapila, Rishi and Rishabh, and then Shaktiavesh, such as the Kumaras, Narada Muni, Vyasadeva, Prithu, Parshuram, different incarnations like that. And the verse is, just as hundreds and thousands of small ponds issue from great reservoirs of water, innumerable incarnations flow from Sri Hari, the reservoir of all power. Good. So when Krishna comes, Krishna is not only avatar, but he's avatari. He's the source of all avatars. He's the source of all avatars. And before Krishna comes, he sends his eternally liberated souls ahead of him to become players, actors in the drama that he's about to perform. So his pastimes continue with different liberated souls acting as his father, mother and others. His pastimes continue until the age of Kishore or pre-youth, and he remains at that age. You will never see a picture of Krishna old. Never see a picture of Krishna with a grey hair. Prabhupada one time he said, you'll never see a picture of Krishna unhappy, miserable. But what he did explain is that Krishna's pastimes are always going on somewhere in the material universe. He said, just as the sun is shining always somewhere at midday, so Krishna is always displaying his pastimes somewhere. So we have sunrise, midday, and then sunset. So imagine that midday is when Krishna performs his pastimes. When we have sunset, Krishna's performing his pastimes in middle of America. When the pastimes disappear there, California. When the pastimes disappear there, Japan. So Krishna's revolving his pastimes. Another time, Prabhupada said it is like a circus which puts on a show in one place and then moves and sets up on a tour. Another time he said it is like a train. He said if you see a train through a gap, you'll see the train is, you'll just see the pastimes flash by. So, we talked about guna avatars. Let's just read about the yuga avatars. The point here is that we must have access to spiritual evolution. And at different times in the history of the universe, it is either more beneficial for us or less beneficial for us to take up a certain process. There are different processes on offer, and according to the Yuga, it is more beneficial for us to do something that is the easiest for us to do. Even it's easiest, it's still not easy completely, but more attainable, because our lives are so short. And in Kali Yuga, when lives are so brief, we have to do something very powerful. So the 4 processes, if you hadn't already jotted it in your notebook, are meditation for Satya Yuga, fire sacrifices for Treta Yuga, temple worship for Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga for chanting. In Satya Yuga, the yogic process is meditation. The avatar The avatar is white, has 4 arms, has matted hair, wears tree bark as clothing, a sacred thread, rudraksha beads, and carries a rod, like a staff, a water pot, and a black antelope skin. He is a brahmachari and teaches religion and meditation. In Treta Yuga, the process is Agnihotra, or fire sacrifice. The avatar is reddish, 4 arms, and golden hair. His form manifests Vedic knowledge. He holds the symbols of a sacrificial spoon and ladle, and so on. In Dwapara Yuga, the yoga process is temple worship. The avatar is blackish, with 2 arms, dresses in yellow, is decorated with Kaustuba jewel and the marks of Shivasta. In Kali Yuga, the yoga process is chanting the holy names. The avatar is yellowish, 2 arms, propagates the Yuga Dharma of the chanting of the names of Krishna. Here's a quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam 12th canto, last book. Whatever result was obtained in Satya Yuga by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapara Yuga by serving the Lord's feet, can also be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by Hari Kirtan. That's 12th canto, 3rd chapter, verse number 52. So we talked about how the purpose of all of this is the jiva. You could say the purpose is God's play, but you could also say the purpose is the emancipation of the jiva, the freedom from the prison of the material world. It's very important to become free. Let me just read this section of the Krishna book. After many millions of years, when Lord Brahma comes to the end of his life, the annihilation of the cosmic manifestation takes place. At that time, the 5 elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether, enter into the Mahat Tattva. The Mahat Tattva then enters, by the force of time, into the non-manifested total material energy. The total material energy enters into the energetic pradhan, and the pradhan enters into you. Therefore, after the annihilation of the whole cosmic manifestation, you alone remain with your transcendental name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia. And then another piece from the Srimad Bhagavatam 2nd canto. O son of Kunti, when the kalpa, or the duration of the life of Brahma, is ended, then all the created manifestations enter into my prakriti, or energy. And again, when I desire, the same creation takes place by my personal energy. Prabhupada used to take very complex commentaries like this, very complex verses, and he would simply say something like, so this material world is like a prison house where we are locked up as prisoners for many, many lifetimes. Krishna is the governor of the prison. He has the key to every cell, and he can come and lift you out of the cell by his mercy alone. You simply have to ask him and approach him. So that is the purpose of the avatar. As many as they are, the purpose is one. And yet, at the same time, from our point of view, the avatars are serving us by freeing us. From the avatar's point of view, they're simply enjoying. Krishna is Adi Purusha, the supreme and original enjoyer, always enjoying. And always, as Prabhupada said, he is the transcendental autocrat, playing his flute and always attracting us with the sweet music of Bhakti to come to join him in eternal pastimes.